Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar, Get Into the Green, with myself, Dr. Tamara Russell, clinical psychologist and neuroscientist, bringing insights from the brain and the clinic and the understanding of psychology into the workplace. And needed now more than ever as managers and organizations find themselves struggling to cope with the rising tide of panic in the workforce. So more than ever now, the manager's emotional intelligence is the vital skill that will allow organizations to maintain performance in these turbulent times. So this is a short introduction to a methodology that's been developed over a decade now, supporting people to work with emotional intelligence and care in mind, recognizing that from a neuroscientific point of view, actually we understand that the more the brain is in a relaxed state, the better the brain will be able to work. And this was my message before the crisis, and the message now is just doubling and tripling in urgency. Brains do not tend to work well when they're in a panic. And I'm going to explain to you now what's happening in the brain, what you need to know. And if you like any of the things that I'm talking about, my phone, my details, my email will be at the end of this, and you can keep in touch. So you can see here that it might even be helpful to just take a micro pause to engage with some actual green on the screen. Now, many people think that we're taking a pause and that this is wasting time, but actually we know that contact with nature improves and rests and restores attention that's just frazzled. And at the moment, our attentional systems are frazzled. Manage your media is a key message right now, because the attention grabbing and dopamine and cortisol producing interactions with our smartphones are fundamentally making us less and less able to think clearly and act wisely. So even a micro moment of tuning into green, tuning into nature, kind of absorbing the healing qualities of nature is already something you can do to manage your attentional system and manage your mind. And the reason we need to do this is because we are now in uncharted territory. Yeah, from a business perspective, from a personal perspective, from a societal perspective, we don't know what's going to happen. And I love working with maps, and I love these old maps from the ancient times, where actually they used to put this phrase, Derby Dragons. Derby Dragons was the phrase that helped us to understand that there was a place that maybe is fearful. We don't know what's there, and there could be something scary, but equally we don't know what's there. So there could be something interesting or an opportunity or a possibility. And that's how I'm framing this work right now for senior leaders that really are willing to grab this opportunity and really shake up working practice. But it's not an easy task, and it requires us to be very steadfast and very engaged and able to work flexibly with our emotional system. So are there opportunities, or is this fear? Is it excitement or fear? It's probably both. And so in terms of leadership, leaders are being invited very much to do their own research work. This is work around EQ, around values, around shadow work, if you're interested in the more Jungian archetypal things. There's the challenges of moving your teams to remote and home working. Some great opportunities in there actually to fundamentally shift how we work and actually increase productivity. My top line here is, if you have a body that's allowed to move, particularly for certain kinds of workers, this absolutely explodes their cognitive capacity and their creativity. And for them, sitting in a desk all day, 8 hours, is not their best work. And I'd be super interested to talk to people that really want to unlock diversity in their teams in these opportunities that are arising as we shift to different ways of working that may actually benefit certain types of worker right now, and maybe the types of workers that we need in these moments where innovation, creativity, and care are the priority. Clearly, there's going to be some financial and technical issues. These are just a reality of what's happening in this moment of changing the workforce practice. Relationship management will be the key skill. This is why EQ is important. And figuring out new ways to collaborate with multiple people simultaneously, even across businesses, is going to be a key challenge. The small to medium enterprises that I'm working with at the moment, they're really flexible and agile in this respect, but there may be some possibilities within and between teams in your organizations that you could explore. But it's all basically, how are we going to get on well together? And fundamentally for managers, this comes down to, how do I relate to myself? How do I relate to my own fears and vulnerability? And how do I then relate to others in the system around me, both up and down the chain in the organization? And the reality is you will meet the reds. So we use this language to describe the reds of anger, the reds of frustration. For me, the reds in the body are feeling impotent about doing things, perhaps because we're in a scenario where we're locked down, or we're feeling our freedom of movement inhibited. There are the realities of the reds. There is something that may be harmful to us physically, and particularly harmful to the ones who we love, who are elderly. These are real reds. But there's loads and loads of internal reds, cognitive thinking, planning, anticipation, trying to figure out, that feed back into the body system and actually just make things worse. So managing your mind is about getting on top of information that goes into your brain, how you're responding to it, and how familiar and okay you can be with distress, uncertainty, and anxiety. This is the time that will really show us the leaders who have got this welly, this capacity to feel deeply in a crisis, not just push the reds away. Yeah, this is old model. Old model is you lock the reds down and you carry on. This is not smart, in my view, from a neuroscience point of view, from a psychological point of view. This is not smart action at the moment. Yeah, this will burn you out and it will burn your team out. And we need to look at sustainability here. So knowing that it's okay to not be okay. This is quite tough for male senior leadership. It's a little bit easier for female senior leadership. We don't necessarily need to use male and female terms. What we need now is a care orientation. And I got another talk about that coming up later on in the month that I might move forwards. So your brain has three systems: threat, which we call the reds; drive, which we call the blues; and soothing, rest and restore, creative, connected systems, which we call the green system. And our society has prioritized the blues, it has minimized the greens, and we are now in a maximum moment of threat, on top of a situation where we were already a bit burnt out. And this is what everybody is saying to me at the moment. I'm actually happy to have a rest, because our team was just being pushed way too hard anyways. There was way too much blue, there was not enough green, and everybody was already in the red when this crisis hit. So when I'm talking to senior leadership, when I'm doing the coaching, it's really about saying it's layers upon layers upon layers of red. And if we don't manage this, it won't work. It just really won't work. And we'll see also the physical compromise as well of the immune system from pushing people too much. So they will get sick. And, you know, unfortunately, we didn't value care. We didn't value care. This is why doctors are not paid as much as they should be. This is why nurses are not paid as much as they should be. And these are the consequences. Yeah, we're not resourced, and we now need to prioritize care. So this is the reality. We may feel this in our body. We may reflect on our own practice. We may look at our working practice. Let's try not to be judgmental. Let's try not to have too many regrets, but let's look clearly at it with courage, really with courage and curiosity, and think, what can I do? And the intention here is to do whatever is going to balance these three systems. And we've got a variety of fun, of science-based, of creative, of movement-based ways. Any way you want to offer this to your teams, we can do this. And we know how to do it online as well. But it's about getting back to balance and taking the time to find out from your teams what they need and what's going to help them. Very briefly, you know, greens get lost when we need them most. This is why we need to prioritize. As those caring for others or managing others, we forget that we need our greens too. So self-care first, putting your own safety mask on first, is our key message. We share this with leaders, with mums, with parents, with teachers, with healthcare staff. Your own self-care is really your secret weapon. 2 for me, 1 for you if you're a carer and you've got time for that. It's harder than it sounds, but I think culturally now we're getting to this understanding that this is brain-wise, body-wise, heart-wise ways of working. How you relate to this in terms of your own story and your own story around what it means to be vulnerable, to have needs is important. This is what I call the me search stuff. And it's hard to stop and put your own safety mask on first when you believe that others are needing you or others are under your care. But what I can really say is that these people are looking at you with big eyes and they're seeing, how is she going to deal with this? How is he or she going to deal with this? And they copy and they imitate, because this is what human brains do. So we call this the modeling. What do senior leaders and management need to model right now? That's the message that you will send to those teams to get them to be more productive. It's not you running around looking burnt out like a headless chicken. That is not inspiring confidence. Yeah. And you don't want them to copy that, because they will burn out. So what language and what actual physical actions are you doing for yourself as well as your team that will give this clear message? Care first. We call this first green, then blue. Manage the reds, amplify the greens, and then decide what you're going to do. It sounds like it's the opposite to everything that you've done before. And in a way it is, because it used to be just get the blue done any way you can. And this will not work in the tide of rising reds. So where are your spaces? And we're trying to think about how we can bring some safe spaces online for senior leaders in order to help them nourish and resource themselves in this time. And there's a few people that I'm working with at the moment who are really finding benefit with this. So we call this the green antidote. We need to recognize that it has been neglected slightly for many of us. We need to recognize that it hasn't been valued, and that valuing it now is a real change of course, like deeply valuing it in an embodied way, not just the lip service. Yeah, not just the lip service of we care, but actual demonstrations of real world care right now in the moment. What do you need? What's going to soothe you? How can I help you? How can we help one another as we try to shift to these new working practices? Developing the language and the permission is vital. Our whole program of Get Into the Green, the Dragon Way to Mental Wealth, is about developing permission and language in teams to help amplify greens, streamline the blues, and really unlock the potential of all the people that maybe struggle to work at their best, sitting in an office in a chair for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Yeah, what can these people do if you give them some latitude to unlock their different blue dragons and their different blue ways of working and producing and being in the world? And then we know from a neuroscience point of view that if you want to manage and reset your state as quickly as possible, that it's actually practices of compassion and self-care that will regulate your brain quickly. It's hard for some people to step into these. It was hard for me. I'm science trained. I'm a massive, massive blue dragon. I've got 2 PhDs. I'm a super striver. I love to work hard. I thrive under pressure. So when I was first told about this and discovered this, I was resistant. I'm not going to put my hand on my heart. I don't want to do compassion practices. That sounds like a weak thing. That sounds like a woo-woo thing. That sounds like something that wouldn't go down in my workplace. But I tested it out and I tried it for myself. I read the science. I tried it out. I worked with my clients. I listened to what they said, and actually putting your hand on your heart, some massage of the face. These are actually free, quick things that with practice get easier and easier and stronger in their activation. And so in this rising tide of reds, let's acknowledge but not be afraid. We've got the tools. We know what to do, but we must practice. And it helps to have the science to guide that practice, because it will mean that you're efficient and you don't waste time. So as I said before, and wrapping up shortly, getting into the green, the power of nature to modify our attention. Look out the window, go to the park if you can, look at photos of your holidays, look at pictures of nature, take time to connect to nature. this will allow you to amplify your greens and really connect to nature in a way that's very important right now. Some are seeing this emerging virus as really a shriek or a cry from the planet to force us to change our behavior because we just really weren't listening. So let's go for it, and let's respond to Mother Nature by being interested in her and connecting to her and seeing the beauty, the wonder, the shapes, the incredible vitality of nature in spring. Yeah, if we can connect to that now, this really, I believe, will be helpful. Forgiveness, little and often, forgiveness and gratitude. We know gratitude actually boosts the immune system. This is the science, people, yeah? If you have a regular gratitude practice, this boosts your immune system. What I do, and it's a great practice for families, is every day write on a little bit of paper what I'm grateful for, what really I'm happy about, even if it's I woke up and I feel okay, or I woke up and I'm not in pain. This goes in the gratitude jar, and I pause and I feel forgiveness. Right now I'm working with forgiveness on, wow, why didn't I do this sooner? You know, I had these plans to bring the green to the world, and I got a bit derailed. I got a bit sidetracked. For various reasons. And I find myself sometimes in the morning now going, oh, I wish this had all been ready. I wish this was more ready. I wish this was wider spread now, because we need it. And so I'm forgiving myself for my limitations, for my capacity to be distracted, for my capacity to, you know, be interested in novel things and get derailed from that more slow and steady pace of mindful business development. So there may be things for you. Now is the time. Shed. Let's not use energy judging ourselves or locking down the things that we're ashamed of. Let's bring them out and say, wow, I'm a limited human being, but guess what? I've spotted this now, and I'm not going to let it drain energy. I'm going to try my best to let go of it and say, you're not perfect. You didn't do great, but what are you going to do now? And these are extremely powerful practices done at depth, very, very transformative, but you can start something small now. And the power of touch, of course, we're being advised right now not to touch. But I'm advising self-massage of the jaw, of the feet. These are excellent ways to reduce stress and get a good night's sleep, respectively. There are ways that we can learn how to do touch mindfully. And see the power of self-massage. As a martial artist, of course, I've had many injuries, and I've learned much about my body through touch. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physiotherapist, I'm not a chiropractor, but through touch and through mindful awareness of the body, we can learn. We learn how to heal ourselves. We learn how to listen to the body. And now more than ever, let's listen to the body. Let's keep it healthy as best we can. And the final touch, of course, is the hand on the heart touch. And if you're in this webinar or you're listening to the recording, let's finish now with 1 minute with the hand on the heart. And closed eyes if that's comfortable. And feel the contact of the hands against the body. Feel the rise and fall of the breath in the chest. And literally drop your frontal lobe down into the body. I'm like pulling my frontal lobe back, sinking it down through the chest, and coming to the heart and just saying, okay, here's my vagal nerve. Here's the seat of my emotions. What happens here affects my brain. What happens in my brain affects my heart. So let's work on both together. Hand on heart, mind in the heart, feeling the breath, feeling the hands. and asking, what do I need? What is the thing that would help me amplify my greens? Me personally. Think of the team later. Me personally. What do I need? What's possible? My body is telling me now that I need a shoulder roll, actually, or just a massage of my neck. And maybe let's come to that now and finish. If you need to massage the neck, the shoulders, perhaps the lower back. Yeah, working online. Many of you maybe already have been online already this morning. We did a Tai Chi class, mindful movement this morning. So I'm noticing how my body is adapting to extended periods of online. And a shoulder roll may be just the thing that you need. So I wish you a good day. I'll sign off now. I'm going to be sharing this webinar with as many people as I can. So I will send the link to people once it's uploaded to YouTube. There is the email there of my wonderful PA, who's part of the green support team for myself, Tamara Russell, as scientist practitioner, and also helping out with the Mindfulness Center of Excellence. Myself, Tony Langford, Mary Louise Morris, Raquel Lulier in Brazil. We're working on getting to the green programs for parents and kids. So keep an eye on the Eventbrite, and I wish you all a great day. So I'm just going to pause the recording now. If I can find the button. Take care.